श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुसाक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोः भगवतोऽस्य दैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये। यस्य स्मरणमात्रेण द्वैतवासनाः प्रमुच्यते बोधात्मकाय नमस्तस्मै भगवते श्रीरमणमहर्षे हृदाकाशे सदा भान्तं शान्तमानन्दरूपिणं ज्ञानभाणमहं वन्दे सद्गुरुं श्रीसत्यसायिनं मम अन्तर्यामिनम्। Through the body, the Atma who is within can be realized. This is the main task of man. Conscious of this, try to always keep watch over the body and protect it. Do not neglect the Lord within, who is the main priority. Do not hold fast to the unreal temporary outer building. Of course, you should not ruin the temple either. Its maintenance is also essential. Only, you should never forget that what gives value and purpose to it is the Atma within. Swami has been speaking about Deho Devalayam. The body itself is the temple of God. But at the same time, it is only the temple. The Lord is the one that makes it a temple. If He is not there, then it is not a temple. In fact, Swami says, without the Lord, it is not a temple, it is a tomb. Shavam, not Shivam. Shavam, அப்படின்னா it is only a corpse. Shivam, அப்படின்னா it is the divinity itself, auspiciousness itself. Do not ignore the Lord, whose mansion is not only this body, but also this entire world. Without Him, the world is Shavam. It is a tomb. With Him, it is a temple, Shivam. If you always remember Him, that is joy and victory, it is Sarvamangala, ever auspiciousness. Always auspicious. Shiva, அப்படின்னாலே auspicious. The word Shiva means auspiciousness. Shava is the very opposite of auspiciousness. For the world seen without God, the Ashauchamide, in our Shastra, in our rules, no, if you go and touch a dead body, then you have to come and have a bath to purify your body, to purify yourself. Anna Bhagavan, Ramana Bhagavan would say, we are always in touch with this Kunapam, this dead body only. அதுக்கு என்ன குளிக்கணும் அப்படின்னா, we should take bath for that also. என்ன bath அப்படின்னா, அதுக்கு ஒரு bath. चलो रे मन गंगा यमुना तीर, चलो रे मन गंगा यमुना तीर, गंगा यमुना निर्मल पानी, शीतल होत शरीर, चलो रे मन गंगा यमुना तीर. Go and dip in the waters of Ganga and Yamuna. Swami would say, Ganga Yamuna Tir. Ganga and Yamuna are the tears of prema that arise from our eyes when we remember the Lord, when we sing His glories, when we chant His name, when we recall to mind His compassion. When we recall to mind His compassion, appo, at that time, pure bhava gushes out in the form of tears. Adan Ganga and Yamuna. For constantly being in touch with this corpse called the human body, we have got to go and dip ourselves in this confluence of these holy rivers so that we can purify ourselves. World itself is a corpse and water. Swami says world itself is like a tomb, empty tomb. The samadhi sthalla. So Swami samadhi, Shirdi Baba samadhi, samadhi mandir, Bhagavan samadhi illa, room, empty tomb. Without Him. Therefore, if we have Him with us, it becomes a temple. He's moving about in that mansion in its many rooms. அப்போ இந்த பிரகிருதி இருக்கே, the entire prakriti itself is Bhagavad Swarupam dan. It is Bhagavan's "I prapanchame na illu," famously declared by Swami. This entire universe is my mansion, is my house. And all the countries, all the planets, all the lokas there are merely rooms. I can move from one room to the other. Yeah, Swami says, so seekers of moksha, when Prakriti merges in Paramatma, it is called moksha. When Prakriti merges in Paramatma, it is moksha. Therefore, the seekers of moksha must yearn for the Shanti and Prema of Prakriti as much as they yearn for the Prema and the grace of Paramatma. Only when the grace of both Prakriti and Paramatma are obtained will the strong and subtle evil of the senses cease to affect the heart. That is the destruction of the mind, the stilling of the agitations of the mind. Therefore, everyone has to achieve Shanti as his chief duty. Prakriti's grace is also important so that we can merge in Paramatma. Then Swami is saying, what is Prakriti? Manasadam Prakriti. Manas is Prakriti. Aladila Adisaya Shakti. Uladunil Aladila Adisaya Shakti. Ramana Bhagavan in Arunachala Stuti Panchakam says, hey Arunachala, there is in you a force, a wondrous power that is non-separable from you. It is not different to you. It cannot be separated from you. There is a Shakti, Mahashakti. What is it? Adha unuடைய Prakriti. Manasu தான் அந்த Shakti. Atma and Manas. Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha Prakriti is otherwise also Atma and Manas. So if you want Atma Prasadam, Mano Prasadam is also necessary. Mind also should be graceful to us. What is the meaning of the mind's grace upon us, Abdina? It is the destruction of the mind, stilling of the agitations of the mind. Manaprasada. Prasadana, remember I mentioned it to you before also. It means peace. Manaprasada, Abdina, mind, mental peace. Manaprasada. But the mind also should be in peace. Then, only then can this merger of Prakriti, of this mind, with the Paramatma, with the Atma can happen. Therefore, one has to equally work on this Manas. How? By turning this Manas, turning the Prakriti towards the Purusha, by turning this nature towards Paramatma, by living in this world which is Prakriti, but all the time living in the presence of the Paramatma, by remembering Him, by loving Him, by devoting ourselves to Him. Then this goal is achieved by that. Swami slowly moves to another topic. There are many who argue that self-respect is Shanti. Self-respect is Shanti. Self-dignity we all have, a self-esteem, self-worth, etc. we all have. And unless that is sanctified or satisfied, we are not in a state of peace. We have to be respected to be peaceful. Then we become agitated. But here Swami says they confuse self-respect with the respect given to the inferior vehicle, the body, or to one's mere status. That is, respect to the person, but not respect to the self or the Atma. The respect given to the Lord within, the Atma within, that is self-respect, nothing else. Self-respect, dignity. What does it mean? It means with reference to the body-mind only. As an individual, we are talking about respect. And what is real respect? Respect given to the self is self-respect. Atma Sambhanam. It is respect given to the self, the Atma. Anga, truth is Atma, Prema is Atma, the Lord is Atma, selfless service is Atma. Respect for any of these is self-respect. Respect of this type is of course Shanti, not the other types. What is real self-respect? Keeping the Karunamaya, who is the Kalpataru, the personification of truth, the Lord whose very nature is Prema, always in one's memory, that is self-respect. Swami gives his own unique explanation or definition to self-respect. Of course, one must have self-respect. But what is the self-respect? Respecting your inner self is self-respect. You have to do it first before you can ask others to do it. You have got to do it. That is why it's called self-respect. For two reasons. It is you yourself that is respecting it first. Adanala self-respect. It is respect given to the self. Adanala self-respect. It is respect given by the self to the self. How is it done? Abdina Ambaraha Swami is explaining how is this Bhagavan, how is this inner self. Abdina, he is the Karunamaya, the embodiment of compassion. He is Prema Swarupa. He is a very personification of Prema, of love. He is truth itself. He is Satya Swarupa. And above all, he is the Kalpataru, the wish fulfilling tree. Remembering this Karunamaya Kalpataru, this compassionate, wish fulfilling tree, which is the personification of truth and love, is keeping it always in one's memory, is self respect. To earn this, one has to cast aside as worthless the respect that the world gives to wealth and status. One has to be able to ignore praise and blame, derision and flattery, and engage in sadhana with full faith in the truth and in the Lord. That is real Shanti, pure Shanti, eternal Shanti. There is no room for false ego in this world. Conflicts arise because of perceived insults. I have not been respected enough. Now, who is that person that is respected? We are only talking about the body, mind, the vehicle. And for that, we are losing our Shanti. Because Swami, all of these are ultimately aimed at being in the state of peace. All the things that can rob you of your peace are being told to us. What can rob us of our peace? The false prestige can rob us of our peace. Yeah, they didn't give me a seat. He didn't nod at me. He didn't welcome me. People keep saying all kinds of things all the time. And all of that is nothing to do with the Atma. You, first and foremost, if you respect the Atma, then everybody else also will respect you. If people are not respecting us, we need not bother about it. First of all, we need not bother about the respect of others. We need not lose our Shanti because they have not respected us. Second, the second thing is, if we respect the Atma within, then everybody else also will end up respecting us. At all costs, all of these various instructions are given by Swami only for one reason. He says, maintain your Shanti. What Shanti you already have, don't let it go because of all these silly excuses, silly, flimsy reasons. That's silly, flimsy reasons. In India and all, it used to be very common. I don't know. Hopefully, things have changed. But in the olden days, olden days means when I'm talking about my grandparental generations, they'll go to the wedding and they will end up not talking to a person for the entire lives because they did not respect them at that wedding. This shows the level of our intellect, how cheap it is. We are willing to let go of our Shanti for that. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was once invited to somebody's house. They were celebrating a big festival there. They had invited several people. They had also invited Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna, but he was very enthusiastic about all of these things. And he had gone. Anga, what happened? He had gone with a few of his disciples. For the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, he is naturally the cat's whiskers and the eye of the apple and so on and so forth. Apple of the eye and the eye of the apple and whisker of the cat and so on and so forth. But those people in their hurry and in their being engrossed in looking after so many things completely ignored Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. As soon as he came, they said, please come, please come. And they made him sit in one room and then they went away. Nobody even came to inquire about him. Will you have something, refreshment? Nothing. They totally ignored him. Sri Ramakrishna sat there for a while. His devotees were very aghast. They were very dismayed. How could Thakur be treated in this manner? Let us go. He said, no, wait for some more time. So they waited. Still there was no sign of anybody coming. So in the end, he asked one of his people, he said, go ask them for a glass of water. Go ask them for a glass of water. People around Ramakrishna were used to Ramakrishna. Even here he has to drink. Where we are not even respected, here also he has to drink a glass of water. And the வீட்டுக்கு போய் சாப்பிட்டா என்ன? How can he not hold on until we reach Dakshineshwar? We will give him all of Ganga's flowing there if he wants to drink. என்ன அதுக்குள்ள தண்ணி இருக்கு. Anyway, they went and got him his glass of water. He drank that water and he said, having come here, if I go away without even having something, then great misfortune will come upon the people of this house. Because a person like me, அவரே சொல்லிக்கிறார், a person like me அப்படின்னு சொல்லிக்கிறேன். ஏன்னா சாதாரணம் இல்லையா, பரமஹம்சா இல்லையா, இஸ் நாட் ஆர்டினரி இல்லையா. A person like me, if he is not looked after properly, then misfortune will befall this family. For having invited me, misfortune should not come to them. அதனால let me have a glass of water, now we will go அப்படின்னு கல்பிட்டார். That is why he is Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Yeah. His greatness is shown the way he treated those little people. They didn't recognize his value. They did not realize his truth. But he knew it well and good. But in spite of that, what did he do, Abdina? Lest any evil come upon them, he, in the pretext of drinking some water, he made sure that they gave him something, they offered him something, though box ticked. None came over. Now, who has not lost Shanti? Now, Ramakrishna's Shanti is preserved. Oh, they did this to me. How can they do this to me? Abdina, if he is jumping up on him, his peace will go. This is real Shanti, pure Shanti, eternal Shanti, because praise and blame are ignored here. Insults and flattery are ignored here. Instead, they are engaging themselves in the sweet romance with the Lord, in the divine communion with the Lord. Adanala, there is only Shanti, pure Shanti, eternal Shanti, real Shanti. There is no status higher than that of the Lord, no embodiment of His higher than truth, no beauty of His higher than Shanti. No, not even in all the 14 lokas and in the entire creation. Now, in the past, and forever and ever. This is the truth, and I repeat it. Swami writes, this is the truth, and I repeat it. What is this truth, Abhina? There is no greater sthiti or gati greater than the Lord. There is no greater padam greater than the Paramapadam. This is the supreme state. Attaining his state, there is nothing beyond that we need to attain after that. Attaining that state, his is the supreme state. There is no greater embodiment of his than truth. In what manner is he visible, Abhina? As truth, he is visible. Pratyaksha Daivatam. Satyam Pratyaksha Daivatam. Truth is the visible God here. And there is no greater beauty of his than Shanti. Shanti is Bhagavan's beauty. Another, every sola Shantakaram, Bhujagashayanam, Padmanabham, Suresham, Shantakaram. His very form itself is one of Shanti, of peace. That is what gives him that rare charm, that rare beauty is Shanti. This is the truth, I repeat it. In all the 14 worlds, this is the truth. This will never change in past, present, and future. Truth can never die. Untruth can never live. We must all get firmly established in this truth, in this belief. Of what can man say this is permanent? In all this world, what can we call as permanent? Yet, how can he believe all of these things to be permanent? Truly, when he sees from birth all things are changing around him, his experience itself undergoing all kinds of various transformations, the atmosphere in which he grows up is being transformed. When he grows up in an environment that has no permanency, how can that belief arise? And Swami is questioning. Observing all this, it can be declared without any fear of contradiction that this is an unreal world. Otherwise, if it is real, how can it change? All that suffers change is unreal. Reality alone is changeless, stable, and permanent. That changeless, permanent entity is the Atma. That alone is real, that alone is permanent. The Atma is the form of the Lord, it is the power of the Lord, it is the Lord himself. And man alone has the capacity and the credentials to realize this power for earning that Shakti. But in spite of that, in spite of having a human birth, it is indeed tragic that man does not realize this eternal reality, is not even making an attempt to understand it. If this chance is missed, when can they attempt it? Why do they not concern themselves with the very purpose for which they have come? They come only to, like all other living beings, birds and beasts and insects, eating, wandering about, sleeping and seeking pleasure? If the answer is no, then for what else? Can we say that man is just an animal like the rest? No, because he's got three things that they do not have: Viveka, Vairagya, Vichakshana. the power of reasoning, the power of detachment, and the power to decide the right and wrong, the power of discrimination, discerning. These are special powers in man, but of what use are they unless applied in actual practice? If they are used, then the name man is apt for him, otherwise, only the name animal must be used for him. The Manali should return. Already we covered this bit. But these three things should be employed in the investigation of the ultimate truth. Really speaking, if discrimination, renunciation, and inquiry are carried out while passing through the joys and sorrows of life, the conviction is bound to dawn that in a moment it will dawn that all this is unreal, that all this has no basis in the truth. When such knowledge dawns, man is certain to tread upon the path of sadhana, take up inquiry, which will lead him to the truth. And this is the task that man must be engaged in. Mindfulness. What Swami talking about in a way is mindfulness. Now, we are living in this world. We are observing all the things in this world, but we are not learning any lessons from it. We are not becoming mindful of it. We are just carrying on with our life. Oh, okay, yesterday, tomorrow, yesterday, today, tomorrow. But if you look around and pay attention to this world and to wake up, then we will see how everything is changing, everything is unreal, nothing that we are pursuing is worth pursuing, because by the time we end up attaining it, it will lose value. Yeah, by the time we end up attaining it, it may lose its value. We are struggling to get it. It may become totally useless by the time we even attain it. Pursuit is a waste. All of it is a waste. If only everyone asked the question, who am I? Where did I come from? Where have I come to? How long will I be here? And where am I going? Jana, the truth will be easily grasped. All of us have to ask these questions. Sir. The questioning is Viveka. The questioning itself is Viveka. Who am I? Where have I come from? Where am I? Where am I going to? What am I doing here? The question should be asked. Asking these questions itself is discrimination. Viveka. When by means of this Viveka, the idea becomes firm in our minds that the world is impermanent, once you know it is impermanent, then you don't have to make any special efforts to give it up. Automatically detachment will arise. Conviction is the problem. We are not convinced that it is unreal. Like Ramana Bhagavan said, you have not had enough of it. And we have not been convinced that it is unreal. If you are convinced, then we will automatically leave it. Swami was asked once by a student in an interview. He said, Swami, how do we give up bad habits? How do we give up bad habits? Like Swami gave a nice example, illustration. He said, if you are holding something in your hand and you realize it is a venomous serpent, what will you do? Will you not immediately throw it away? Will you let go of it little by little? Or will you immediately fling it aside? Like that, once you realize that the habit that you have is a bad habit, it is a poisonous habit, it is going to cause harm to you, then and there you will throw it away. Swami said. I was a student at that time in that interview. Third year in college. I was pondering about it for a long time because it somehow seemed impractical to me. At the time, even though Swami said it, it seemed impractical to me. I thought, how is that possible? Snake is different. A habit is different. Snake is an object, you throw it away. Is it so easy to give up a habit? But then I thought again and again, pondered on Swami's words. I never said Swami was wrong. I'm not that kind of a fool. There are fools like that also. Again, if they don't agree with someone's words, they will say, he's wrong. I'm right. That is not the way to approach. He is right, I just don't understand it. That is the right way to approach. Then only we will learn. If automatically you say he's wrong, what can you learn after that? He is right, I just don't know how to understand it. I must make an effort to understand. I think we have to ponder about it. After pondering about it, for a long time I pondered. For years, I would say. Then it occurred to me, then it struck me, when I realized it is a poisonous snake, that means I'm convinced that it is a poisonous snake. If in spite of it being a poisonous snake, I am not convinced, I won't throw it away. So with bad habits, why are we not able to let go of it the way Swami is telling, is as though Swami makes it seem as though it is so easy, just a question of throwing it away. Why is it not so easy? We are not convinced that it is so harmful to us. If we are convinced that it is harmful to us, then we will let go. But the conviction has not arisen within us. We still haven't had enough of it. That is why Vairagya is eluding us so much. But here Swami says, when the idea that the world is impermanent gets deeply rooted in the mind, all attachment cease automatically. How can you have attachment when you know it is false? Knowing it that it is false. Until then, Viveka, the questioning should be carried out. The discrimination, the questioning, if it is not enough, then look again and again and again and again at the world, at the impermanency of this world, the impermanency of every single thing in this world, till you become convinced that indeed it is impermanent. Then you will automatically enough. Really, you will have that alam buddhi. That is the stage of renunciation or vairagya. Is it worthwhile to be caught up in this unreal world? Really, you ask yourself. It is false, it is misleading, you answer to yourself. Then you turn your efforts to attain the realm of the Lord, which is Satyaloka. From this Asatyaloka, you want to go to the Satyaloka, the true realm, the true world. That is the right decision, Vichakshana. Apo, Viveka, Vairagya, Vichakshana. What is Viveka? Looking at this world, observing this world, and learning the truth of the impermanency of this world. Letting go of all attachments automatically is Vairagya. Apo, Vichakshana is then choosing to forge towards that permanent reality of the truth which is God. It is through Viveka and Vairagya that we understand who we really are. Without them, we will not be able to understand it. Bhagavan, the Lord, has blessed us with these two. He has endowed man so that he might use them for that purpose. Therefore, man is truly fortunate. But alas, man has forgotten the task for which he has come, ignored the question whence he came, closed his eyes to where he is, diverted his intelligence towards amusement and creature comfort, and wasted all his powers. What a tragedy this is. If in this most propitious human birth itself, in this birth itself, if God is not sought, then when are we going to succeed? Everything is obvious. But first you must know your own address. Swami gives an example. You're writing a letter. The letter, you've written a nice letter to somebody, you folded it and you put it in an envelope. But on the envelope, you neither write your address nor the address of the person who's receiving it. Give blank, ungive blank. For back and front of the envelope is blank. You post it. Where is it going to go? Will it go to the person that you have addressed it to, that you have written the letter to? No, because his address is not there. At least will it come back to you? No, because your address is also not there. Return to sender. Like that, we are living our lives like that. Swami says, we are living our life. First, you must know your own full address. Who am I? Who am I? Swami gives the answer, Atma. Where did I come from? Atma. Where am I going? To the Atma. How long can I be here until I merge in the Atma? Where am I now? In the unreal, ever-changing. In what form? As Anatma. What am I engaged in? In evanescent tasks. What should I be doing? Giving up all these, try to enter the eternal, engage in ever-changing tasks, and to enjoy the bliss of the Atma. Question answer Mari Swami, Yaksha Prakshan Mari. Who am I? I am the Atma. Where have I come from? Swami used to teach this to the children. Where do you come from? Hey boy, where do you come from? அப்படின்னா அது ஏதாவது டெல்லி பாம்பே அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. அது நினைச்சுட்டு இருக்கு வேர் டு ஐ கம் ஃப்ரம்னா மை ஹவுஸ் சென்னை மெட்ராஸ். இதான் மேடு. Where do you come from? Swami, you should say from you, Swami. From you. And he would ask that as though like a big quiz question, trick question. Hey, where do you come from? From you, Swami. Good. Whether the child realizes it or not, Swami would ask this question and be satisfied in receiving this answer. Atma Tattva cholala. I come from the Atma, I come from you. Parrot like it's repeating. In primary school, the small children would be taught, if Swami asks, then you better tell. Where do you come from? From you. Where do you come from? From you. Where do you come from? From you. Once it's happened that when small child was there, Swami came to the small child and asked, hey, where do you come from? From you, Swami. Swami has had this habit. When his children, when his students answered something like this, he will immediately show them off to the VIPs and guests who are there. So, Chusara, see our boys? Okay, that's fine. See our boys? Okay. See how they answer? Okay. Now he said that and went inside. One VIP who saw this, saw really that boy is so good. Huh? He didn't know this was all coaching. Our Nanishar, this boy is so good. Yeah? He said, from you. What a wonderful child. Immediately he went and asked, Baba, what is your name? Some name. Where do you come from? From you. Yeah, the child has been going. Somebody asked you, where do you come from? From you. Cat is out of the bag now. But then why did Swami still teach them? One day or the other, when the real inquiry arises, where did I come from? At that time, this answer will come from him, from Swami. Appo the real meaning of coming from Swami will also arise in the mind. The child who innocently said, I come from you, is still infinitely better than us in all our ignorance that we do not know where we come from. Yeah. Or we do not even contemplate or question that. Where have I come from? Where have I come from? Again one day. Before I was born in this world, where did I come from? Where was I? Howard Moffat asked Swami in an interview. He asked Swami, in 1918, you finished your avatar as Shirdi. And in 1926, you were born in Puttaparthi. So 8 years difference. In the 8 years, where were you? Where was I before I came to Shirdi? Where were you in those 8 intervening years before you landed in Puttaparthi? Swami looked at him like this actually. Huh? What is he asking? Nobody had asked him this question. No? Swami was like, huh? What is he asking? Okay. And Swami said, I was where I always was, permeating this entire universe. Always I was there. I'm always there only. In the permeating this entire universe. As this universe I am. Yes, because I take a form, we take Swami to be an individual. This is a great eye-opener of the truth that Swami is revealing. I am not an individual who comes from Swami. Didn't say I come from Vaikunta. And Swami had a greatness. Swami didn't say, oh, after finishing in Dwarkamai, when I finished, no, I went to Vaikunta. I went to Kailasa. I went to Brahmaloka. If you are able to go to such places, you are an individual. It's universal. This is not individual. This is universal. I'm everywhere. Just because I'm expressing myself through a form doesn't mean I am an individual in only one place, not proscribed or circumscribed by a place. I'm everywhere. So who am I? The Atma. Where do I come from? I come from the Atma. Where am I going? I'm going to the Atma. Where am I in this unreal, ever-changing world? How long will I be here? Until I merge in the Atma, until I go and reach the Atma back. In what form am I now? As Anatma. What should I become? The Atma. What am I doing currently? Useless things. What should I be doing? Useful things. What am I doing? Useless things. Give up these three. Another three. The unreal, ever-changing world, the Anatma, and the useless things I am doing. Give up those three. And instead, attain the eternal by engaging in never-changing tasks. Never-changing tasks na enna? What is the task that never changes? Atma Anusandhanam. Go within and contemplate on the changeless. Remain as the changeless. To enjoy the bliss of the Atma That is why we have come here. எத்தை தின்று எங்கே கிடக்கும், அத்தை தின்று அங்கே கிடக்கும் போல இருக்குது. This must be the chief effort of the jiva, his perpetual aim and the greatest adventure in this world. All other tasks are humdrum and silly. They glitter for a moment and vanish. You will realize this truth if only you turn your back on them and watch wisely. கொஞ்ச நாள் திரும்பி அகம்தனை தினமகக்கண் காண் தெரியும் என்றனை என் அருணாச்சலா. Take a step back. Just look at all the tasks that you have done so far. எவ்வளோ பண்ணிருக்கோம், எவ்வளவோ so many things we have done. ஏதாவது யூஸ் இருக்கும், ஏதாவது யூஸ் இருக்கும். இந்த குழந்தை எல்லாம் ஏதோ கலர் பண்ணி கிரிக்கின்னு இருக்கு. These children sit there and color something and fill up pages. Is there any use for it? ஏதோ டைம் பாஸ். That time passed. After that, what is the use of it? அதெல்லாம் அப்புறமா வச்சு ரீசைக்கிள் பின்ல போ. We put everything into the bin, isn't it? Book, if it gets accumulated in the house, we throw it into the bin. அப்படிதான் we are doing everything. All the tasks that we are doing, whatever it is that we are accomplishing and building, are all going to be consigned into the rubbish bin of history. எல்லாம் ஒவ்வொரு, no matter who has done it. Like that poet who wrote Ozymandias, he wrote a poem, no? But a great a man was wandering in the desert and he found a face, a big face, a statue, the face of a statue. It was all weather beaten by sand and so on. Nothing is left of it. And in the bottom, the pedestal, it is written, I am Ozymandias, the king of kings. Who even knows him? And the Galatri was king of kings, it seems. Who knows him now? And everything is in the sands of time, everything is forgotten. All our accomplishments, all our tasks are actively being consigned into the garbage bin of history, of time. Waste இல்லையா? அதை சுவாமி சொல்றார், instead of engaging yourself in the greatest adventure, which is finding the truth of your own self, loving God and attaining God, you're wasting your time. All these tasks are humdrum and silly now. Whatever it is that we are doing, are silly things. None of them have got any value. They glitter for a moment and vanish. இப்போதைக்கு இருக்கு. They seem to be there. அதுக்கு Swami says, ஒரு நல்ல story. Swami narrates a story. Story as I have narrated this before, the same story. Story of the Aviveka Shikamani. There was a king. This king had a friend, a personal bodyguard kind of a person. He was a bit of a, he seemed to be a bit of a slow poke. He really was wise, it seems. But everything he will do only after deliberating a lot about it. Anything he was asked, he will not immediately answer. He will think and then only answer. He won't do anything in a rush. He will think and do it. Because of all of this, everybody thought they took him to be a fool. Hey, he doesn't know anything. He was very slow, a bit slow-witted. They thought him as a fool. And so the king gave him a title, Aviveka Shikamani. Aviveka Shikamani, the crest jewel of fools. The greatest fool ever. Not only that, he even made a beautiful or a golden plate, in which it was inscribed Aviveka Shikamani, and he made him wear it around his forehead. Enga panalum Aviveka Shikamani, the king of fools. He also wore it. He didn't care. He lived along with the king, amusing the king and doing all kinds of, like a court jester he was. In the due course of time, the king became old and he became ill. And he was lying in his deathbed. Everywhere they searched for physicians, nobody could find anybody. Even whatever medicines were applied, none of them were of use. The illness worsened day by day. Finally, the Raja, the king, was at the death's door itself. He suspected his end was near. Adanale, he made whatever preparations have to be made, called everybody. Even at that time, there was no thought in his mind of God or anything, it seems. He had a terrible fear of death, but could not think of anything other than death. Many people would have sorrow. And then they think about Mrityu alone, without completing the word Mrityunjaya. They think about Mrityu, but not Mrityunjaya, the conqueror of death, Ishvara. But this king, when he was in this final moments, one day he called this Aviveka Shikamani to his bedside and said to him, whispered very feebly in his ear, well, my friend, I'm going to go soon. So that fool asked, oh, you're going? You're so weak. How can you go? Wait, I will immediately ask for the palanquin to be brought for you. No palanquin can take me there. Oh, long distance, I will get chariot ready. Don't worry, I'll get the chariot ready. Chariot is also no use. Oh, you're going through some kind of untraversable roads maybe. A horse will be of use. I will get a horse. Horse is also no use. Another, what are you saying? Nothing is you. Sorry, no problem. I have always been with you. I will myself carry you there. Come with me. So then the king became very sad and said, no, my dear friend, the place where I'm going, I alone can go. Nobody can accompany. No companion can be taken. I have to go alone and by myself. So on hearing this, the fool was thrown into a great doubt. He said, it is very curious. You say the palanquin cannot go, chariot cannot go, horse cannot go, no second person can go. Okay, at least where are you going? Tell me, where are you going? No, I don't know. That I don't know, the king said. So when the fool heard it, immediately he untied the golden plate that he was wearing upon his forehead and immediately tied it around the king's forehead and said, Raja, you know so much about the place. You know what can go, what cannot go, everything you seem to know about it. These things can't go, but you still don't know where you're going. You seem to know so much about it, but you don't even know where you're going. You know you're going there, but you don't know where you're going. I think you deserve this title more than me. And at that time, the king was overcome with shame, it seems. He said, Alas, I wasted my years in eating and sleeping, pursuing pleasures, never caring to inquire who I am, whence I came, what am I doing, whither am I going, and why I came. The question is important. The 6 best friends, who, what, why, where, when, etc. These are the best friends. Who am I? From whence did I come? Whither am I going? Quo vadis? Where am I going? What am I doing here? The questions I did not ask. Now, the precious time that was allotted to me for doing all of this has come to an end. I was given this time to find the answers to these questions. Instead, I wasted my time. Now the time has come to an end. You're sitting for an exam. 3 hours time is given. They have given the 3 hours time to answer the questions that are in the question paper. If instead of that you write something else, and by the time 3 hours is over, they come and take the paper away. Wait, I have not answered the questions. What were you doing then? What were you writing? Will they give you extra time for that? Yeah. Like that, we are also writing a question paper. We are also writing an exam paper. What are the questions? Very simple questions now. Not many questions. Who are you? Where do you come from? Where are you going to? What are you doing? What is the question? In the question, we are not answering. Death is knocking at the door. Children have started weeping. Family and relatives are in great anxiety. Subjects are under great anxiety. At this time, now can I start doing the inquiry? Can a thought that I never entertained throughout my living moments suddenly arise now during my last moments? It is impossible. Yes, indeed, I deserve the title Aviveka Shikamani because I wasted life in useless pursuits without the thought of reality. And so the king had it proclaimed to everybody that inquiry is the best means of knowing the truth. Inquiry that must be directed to separating the unreal from the real, the eternal from the temporary. People should arrive at the conclusion that God alone is the true and only entity, eternal entity, and that by their own independent investigation, they should not only grasp that entity intellectually, but must also acquire and attain the grace of that God so that they may experience it for themselves. See, Vrittigyanam is there. Knowing that God is the only reality. A little bit of analysis we do, we are all convinced now, no? After having heard so much, who here is not intellectually convinced, yes, God is the only reality. But for that to become an experience, there is something in between. What is that now? Arulum Venume Anbu Punume. Ramana Bhagavan in Ayya Atisalapam Atma Vidya Kirtanam says, for that to happen, Arulum Venume, grace is also required. So all our efforts should be aimed at getting the grace of the Lord. How, in what manner, what best manner can I get the grace of the Lord so that I have answers to all these questions and I can experience the reality? On the one hand, there is the inquiry. Inquiry பண்ணிட்டே இருக்க வேண்டாம். There is no need of keep on inquiring. Inquiry is only to make you aware that this world is useless. After you realize the world is useless, why you keep on doing inquiry? World is useless. Is the world really useless? Are you really sure it is useless? What is the use of that? World is useless. You understood the world is useless. After that, what? After that, now you have to realize or experience the reality. How do you experience the reality? You need grace for that. You need grace for that. Haroda grace. Whose grace do you need? Guru's grace, God's grace, your own grace. Ishwara Anugraham, Guru Anugraham, and Atma Anugraham. No day grace. Unless we have this grace, it is not possible for us to unravel the final mystery. Intellectually, we can go to a certain extent, but then we will reach a glass wall, as it were, the glass ceiling. Speaking about the glass ceiling, like that, we'll reach a glass ceiling, and we cannot go beyond it. We can see what is there, but we cannot transcend it. To transcend it, we need grace which will shatter that wall to smithereens and allow us to enter into it. Bhagavad Anugraham is necessary. God's grace is important for that. All our efforts should be aimed towards acquiring that grace of the Lord. What will get us that grace? That's what we should think about. Every sadhaka must not simply enjoy the Vishayas without doing vicharana. Should not simply enjoy the objects of the senses, the objects of this world, without doing inquiry. Only then the conviction can dawn, it can grow, that everything that is related to this world is unreal. Only then they will be given a relative value, not an absolute value. Everything has got a value. Relatively, everything has got a value. For a relative value. If you are living in this life, on the one hand, there is studying. As a child, you study whatever you have to study, or you play, you while away your time. Both are equally useless now, but there is a relative value. From the worldly point of view, there is a relative value. If you are going to be diligent and do your studies properly, you can have a bright future. On the other hand, if you are just going to be playing the fool, then what's the use? For relative value. But absolute value, there's no absolute value to either of those things. So, Swami says here, they are of course to be learnt and experienced as necessary for existence, as a kind of daily routine, but they should not be mistaken for the highest knowledge, the eternal unchanging truth. That mistake, if committed, leads to ashanti, an agitated mind. Agitation produces worry and anxiety. They in turn destroy shanti, peace. Painartham, what does it mean? None of your daily tasks or duties can be abandoned. They all have to be done. But they have to be done with the full knowledge that these are all temporary. These are all relative only. They do not have any absolute value. In the absolute scheme of things, once something to do with the absolute comes and contends with a relative, we should know which one to hold on to and which one to discard. கொள்ளத்தக்கதும் தள்ளத்தக்கதுமாம் இவ்விரண்டின் கூறு கேளாய். After listening to all this, then still you say, no, I have to do my daily tasks. That is not the point. What does it mean? Why do you realize what is absolute and what is a relative? You still have to do the relative, but when there is a choice between the absolute and the relative, you should know then that you have got to immediately choose the absolute. You can't say, no, but I have to do relative. An ability to give up easily the relative is vairagya, is detachment. Do you understand? For instance, example, maybe you have to vacuum your house. At the same time, satsang is there. Maybe the only time you found some time to vacuum the house is the time when satsang is there. About a choice, what to do, relative work, no, everything has to be done. Vacuum also has to be done. So I'll miss satsang and do vacuum. What is eternal and what is a relative? What is eternal and what is a relative? For the sake of the absolute, the relative should be given up. For the sake of the relative, the absolute cannot be given up. Absolutely not given up. Yeah. This understanding, if you do not have, Swami says, we will become immersed in ashanti only. We will never have any shanti. If you want shanti, if you aspire for shanti, peace, equanimity, the basic thing is have faith in the temporary nature of nature and be engaged in uninterrupted contemplation of the changeless divine. If you aspire for shanti, Swami says, you must have faith, you must have the firm conviction that the world is unreal And at the same time, you should have uninterrupted contemplation. Idaividada Swarupa Smaranai. Uninterrupted contemplation of the reality that is God. Therefore, do not be bound by selfish attachments. Engage yourself in the discharge of your duties, but do not allow yourself to be gladdened by success or saddened by failure. Be ready to renounce all that is harmful. Then, through discrimination, you can beat the drum of victory. Great declarations like these reveal the highest truth and the glory of Godhead. Now, whatever we have said so far, that's how we summarize it here. Leave off your selfish attachments. Engage yourself, do your duties without any botheration for the results, because the results are relative. I failed. That failure itself is a relative only. It's of no consequence. Relative means it's of no consequence. It's useless. Whatever you have succeeded is also useless. To be able to get this kind of firmness, you have to always keep looking at the goal. Only then you will be able to recognize and realize the valuelessness of the so-called successes that you're achieving. If you look at this, you will think it's important. Oh, it's great, I have accomplished this. If you look at that, it will be like an example of Morarji Desai. God, Prime Ministership. I wanted God, I got Prime Ministership. Chee, what a sad. I thought I will get divinity, instead I got Prime Minister job. Yeah, he's looking at the goal. He's looking at his goal. Goal is God. And I have not reveled in God. What is the use of all these things? No matter how high others may deem it to be, to me, it is Trinayamene. It is a blade of grass to me. Chee. Like Sita takes a blade of grass and puts it between herself and Ravana and says, all the wealth that you're speaking about, chee, it is a blade of grass. All the power that you're speaking about, chee, it's a blade of grass. All the education that you're speaking about, chee, it's a blade of grass. Adhanala, be ready to renounce everything that is harmful. What is harmful? Anything that stops you from reaching that goal is harmful. Doesn't matter what it is. Satsangam, Dussangam is children. What is Satsangam? Again, that which leads you to God is Satsangam. What is Dussangam? That which takes you away from God is Dussangam. It can be anybody. If the Guru becomes an obstacle and prevents you from attaining God, Guru himself is Dussangam. Guru is Dussangam. Mahabali Chakravarti wanted to give everything to Vamana. Shukracharya, the Guru, came and blocked him. He said, I will not listen to you. And a Guru became Dussangam for him. Chi, ni Satsangam, ni Dussangam. Bad company. What is bad company? If it diverts you and takes you away from your divine obsession, then it is bad company. If the various paths are compared, jnana, bhakti, etc. are compared, it can be said that the Lord's grace, we're talking about how to win the grace of God. That can be said that bhakti is the easiest path to win the grace of God. That God's grace can be won most easily by the bhakti path than any other path. But in bhakti sadhana, what should we do? In bhakti, we must grasp the reality and the inner meaning of bhakti fully and clearly. For that also, for this, the objective world itself is the proof and argument, the effort and the means. For knowing this also, again, you've got to pursue the spiritual inquiry. Such an inquiry will grant you unshakable peace. Again, bhakti sadhana. This Swami, what Swami is trying to say is that these basic qualifications, doesn't matter what path you take, it is still necessary. Bhakti dane, so why should I have inquiry? In bhakti also, what is the aim of bhakti? To love God, to remember God, to be associated with God, to pursue God, to have Him as the goal. What are the obstacles? Your attachment to the world is the obstacle, which makes you forget God. But what will help you? Again, the same inquiry, looking at this world and trying to understand, it is useless, it is temporary, it is unreal. Abdingar inquiry will once again help you to forget about this world and instead turn all your attention and focus it upon the Lord. So once again, that is all is important. Again and again, that becomes important. Now, for this, again, Swami says, what is necessary for this? An unflagging desire to achieve victory. Ichha Shakti, Swami is calling it. You must want to attain God. And it must be a great burning zeal inside us. Though God is also good to attain. It's like McDonald's, Do you like fries with that? So as you're busy acquiring name and fame in this world, power and position in this world, wealth and property in this world, would you also like to have a side serving of God? Yeah, sure, why not? It's included, no, why not? Abdiya God? Is God the side dish? Is God a mere side serving? That desire, burning desire to attain God should be there within us first. Unflagging that wish, ichha, is nothing but seeking the highest state. Ichha Shakti is the courageous effort undertaken to realize this noble desire. The wish must be strengthened by the will and the will by the effort. Wish, will and effort. Three things Swami is talking about here. Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti. Ichha, the desire to attain God. Desire to attain God is there. Is that alone enough? Yeah, I want God. Yeah, sure, why not? I want God. There's a desire for God. Then there must be a power associated with it called willpower. Ichha Shakti. I must attain God. Finger or burning zeal. But that alone is also not enough. It must be also supplemented by or complemented by effort. Effort should also come along with it. Apo, it is wish being strengthened by the will strengthened by the effort. Appada willpower. Repeatedly, when we are able to implement our desire towards God, Swami is making it very clear. Ichha, wish, means nothing but seeking the highest state. First, the highest state. What is wanted is just the unflagging desire to achieve victory. That will lead you to discover the means thereof, to develop earnestness and care in the pursuit of those means, and to get success. If, on the other hand, his will to succeed is not strong, his efforts also will be weak. How intensely you put in effort depends upon how badly you want it. You want something badly, you will put in a lot more effort for it. Yeah? So, optional, your efforts also will be optional only, suboptimal. Where the desire to acquire something is very powerful, very strong, then you will go all out for it. They are always related. Apo Swami is saying the same thing. Your will must be strong. Then your efforts also will be strong. So your wish or desire will be strengthened by your will, and your will be strengthened by your effort towards it. When all three go together, you will attain success. Swami gives an example. There's a person who wants to become strong. If he really, really wants to become strong, then he will do all kinds of exercises, weightlifting, eating, training, Allah. He will do everything, put in all the effort required to become strong. Apo, what happens? First, he will learn about how to do it. He will first have a curiosity to learn, okay, what exercises should I do? If he wants to become strong, he has to do some particular type of exercises. So he will first learn what those are. Then, depending upon how badly he wants it, he will put those efforts into practice. He will do those exercises as much sincerely as his desire is. There's a passing fancy. You do it for 2 days and he will leave it. Likewise, here also. When he practices them, his will is changed to steadiness in effort. But one important thing must be noted. There are many who say that the complete absence of wish and will is the best. Swami Rahana Vaka solraringa. Some people say, Ashe Arumin. Don't have any desires, Even with God, don't have any desires. Don't have any desires at all. But Swami says, however, this is not as good as having one wish more than all the others. One wish, one alone, to the exclusion of all else, is even more powerful than having none at all. Because one wish gives you direction. If you have no wish, no direction. 10 wishes, 10 directions. I have many desires, you have many directions. I have no desires, no direction. Zeal. There are some people, who naturally don't seem to have any desires. இன்னும் ஆசையாக இருக்காது பெருசாக என்ன. They are not interested in wearing good clothes. They are not interested in eating anything. They are not interested in going anywhere. They are not even interested in getting married. They are not interested in name and fame. They are not interested in wealth. ஒன்றுமே இல்லை, சும்மா ப்ளாடிங்கலாம். நிறைய மீடியோக்கர்ஸ் ப்ளாடலாம். What is the problem with them now? They have no direction. They have no direction at all. On the other hand, there are people who have too many desires. I have to do that. They're running in all directions like headless chooks. Don't know which direction to go to. And no shanti for them. That's bad case. What is the one ideal scenario Swami is talking about? Have one wish, one desire. Above all else, that is the only desire you have. What is that desire? எற்றைக்கும் எழுவிக்கும் உந்தன்னோடு உற்றமையாவும் உனக்கே நாம் ஆட்சேபம் மற்றை நம் காமங்கள் மாற்றேரோர் பாபாய். Andal says, you remove all the other desires. I want only one desire. What is it? To serve you, to be close to you, to be related to you, to be very dear to you, and to serve you. No desire. When I've said so many sentences, doesn't mean so many desires, only one desire. To serve you closely, that desire. You have to couch it correctly, then you can include many things into it. Yeah. I want to see, like Savitri asks Yama. Savitri's husband Satyavan was taken by Yama. Savitri was a great chaste Pativrata Nari. She went behind Yama, went all the way to Yamaloka. And then Yama said, Yama, you have come here. I know why you have come. You have come for the husband's life. But apart from that, since you have come to my house, I have to give you something. Apart from your husband's life, you ask for anything else. When her father-in-law was blind, king. Father-in-law was a king. He was blind. He was exiled. They had no children. The Savitri and Satyavan had no children. Satyavan is about to die. I was okay, fine. This is the boon I want. I want my father-in-law to enjoy the sight of me feeding my son food from a golden cup on the highest floor of the palace. Exile, blind, no son for Savitri. So she says, I want my father-in-law to see and delight in the sight of me feeding my son food from a golden cup while sitting on the highest terrace of our palace. In exile, palace. I said, okay, given. He was still standing there. Why are you still standing? I've given you your boon. Go. No, how can I go? You are going to take my husband away. How can I have a child if my husband is not there? Yama was caught. You're very clever. Say, take Satyavan back. He gave Satyavan back. But the king also got his eyesight back. The king also got his kingdom back. They also had a son, and she was on the highest floor feeding curds from a golden cup to the son. And the king was seeing it. The father-in-law was seeing it. அந்த மாதிரி எல்லாத்தையும் ஒன்னா கேட்ட ஆண்டாள். எற்றைக்கும் ஏழு பிறவிக்கும் உந்தனோடு உற்றமையாவும் உனக்கே நாம ஒரே ஒரு விஷயம் மற்ற இனம் காமங்கள் மாற்ற. I don't want any other wish, only one wish. என்ன விஷயம் அப்படின்னா உன்னோட கூட இருக்கணும். I have to stay with you. இந்த staying close with you நாலே எல்லாம் included. ஏன்னா அவன் யாரு? Who is he? சாட்சாத் பரமாத்மா. அவங்ககிட்ட யாரும் உட்காந்துக்க முடியும்? Who can sit next to him? To be able to sit next to him அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு அவன் ஜம்னு வரான். அழகிய மணவாளன் ரம்ய ஜாமாதரம். He is coming there as a beautiful bridegroom. நம்பர்மாள். He is bedecked with all kinds of jewels. அப்போ பக்கத்தில் இப்போ பாட்டு ஏதாவது பழைய புடவை கட்டணும் வர முடியுமோ? ஓகே, ஆண்டாள் கம். கேன் ஷி வேர் சம் ஓல்ட் சாரி, பேட்ச்ட் அப் சாரி அண்ட் கம்? இல்லையே. ஆடி எடுப்போம், அதை முன்னே பார்ச்சோரு அப்படின்னு அது பெரிய லிஸ்ட் இதில் இருக்கு. சுடுகமே தோல்வழியே தோடே செவிப்பூவே பாடுகமே என்றனைய பல்களவும் யாமணிபோம் ஆடி விடுப்போம் அதன் பின்னே பார்ச்சோரும் உடனே வேதம் வழங்கே வழிவார கூடியிருந்து குளிர்ந்தேருவோம் என்பாவாய். அப்படின்னா we will bedeck ourselves with all jewelry. He will have to give all that. Once Bhagavan accepts us, this is trick. But the Bhakta doesn't know this trick. A true Bhakta doesn't know the trick. After he's acquired everything, he sits back and thinks, was I so clever? I thought I'll give up everything for the sake of the Lord. But when I gave up everything and all I wanted was him, when he decided to accept me, he couldn't accept me. Now it is a reflection on him. It becomes a reflection. அவனை சுற்றி இருக்கிறவாள்லாம் எப்படி இருக்கானோ அவனுக்கு தானே ரிஃப்ளெக்ஷன். இப்போ ரமண பகவான் அப்படின்னா everybody can wear காஷாய மரம், everybody can wear நம்பர் மால் அப்படின்னா எப்படி இருக்கணும்? எல்லாரும் எல்லாம் நல்லா ட்ரெஸ் போட்டுக்க வேண்டாமோ? everybody should be well dressed இல்லையா around him. Well dressed na, that is merely a manner of speaking. Shanti will be there. What is the ornaments? Shanti will be there. Satya will be there. Prema will be there in us. Ananda will be there in us. All of that we will enjoy. All of that will be there with us when He has chosen us. So the one wish, it is better to have one wish to the exclusion of all other wishes. What is that one wish? The wish to serve Him, the wish to attain Him, the wish to always be with Him. The wish for Him to always hold us close to Him, to be near and dear to Him. Even more superior is the person. So best to have one wish. Even more superior is the person who, after having that one wish, is steady in his efforts to realize that one wish. Icha, wish, desire. Icha Shakti, the power of desire. What is that? It is the steadiness in effort towards acquiring or fulfilling that desire. For by that he can promote not only his good but even the world's good. Let your wish, will, and effort be directed towards your own good. Do not divert them to worldly pleasures, for that will harm and destroy Shanti. All our desires should be aimed at, pointed towards attaining that truth, attaining Bhagavan. Our will should be towards that, our effort should be towards that. All the three should be only in unity. Desire is one thing, effort is one thing, where will we make any progress? Everything has to line up. So when we put in all our efforts towards acquiring that truth, by not diverting them towards worldly pleasure. See how many times Swami has repeated this. If after listening to this Prashanti Vahini, we still want to go around for mere worldly pleasures, then we have wasted these 7 days also. This transformation should come into us. Let them come. When pleasure comes, you enjoy it. But don't seek it. Don't actively want it. அவ்வளவுதான். பகவானே எல்லாம் அரேஞ்ச் பண்ணி கொடுத்துட்டே இருக்கார். பகவான் keeps on arranging, no? இல்லையா? சொல்லுங்க பாபு. Does Bhagavan not arrange? Are we all starved for happiness and pleasure in life? திங்க கிடைக்கலையோ? We get good food to eat. ஏதாவது எப்படியோ somewhere from somewhere something good will come. Some cake will come from somewhere. எங்கேருந்து வருது கேக்கு? பகவான் தான் கொடுப்பான் கேக்கு. பகவான் will make the cake and give it to us. எங்கேயோ வரும். கேக் will come. கேட்காமே கேக் will come. நீ கேட்கவே வேண்டாம், கேக் will come. ஃபீஸ்ட் will come. நாங்களாம் அந்த காலத்தில் என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா, in those days, no, it was almost inevitably it used to happen. This is before I went to even Perth years to study in the college there. When we were in Chennai studying in school, some center event will be there. Samitila event இருக்கும், Swami's birthday இருக்கும், or some big program will be there. Something we'll all be so engaged, we'll all be doing the Swami's work, and we'll be doing all of that. When we finish everything, within a day or two, somehow or the other, a box of sweets will arrive, or somebody will come and give some cake, or somebody will invite us for a big feast somewhere. அது என்ன நினைப்போம், அது என்னமோ பண்ணதுக்கு as though Swami is saying, okay, go have some fun அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி. We found it many times this occurrence happening. When you've done something, Swami will send something as a big reward. And it was not the food or the cake or the sweets that made so much difference. It was the fact that soon after doing this, when it came, Swami panirkar, Swami has sent it, that made it even better. Like that, when we are engaged in his tasks, when we are living our life for him, will he not take care of us? Nikartala in the thought for the day we saw. The brothers and the sons of the family work for the sake of the master of the house, not demanding anything. But are their needs not looked after? Even if they do not ask, he will provide and find everything that they need. Like that, Swami is looking after all of us. Even without your knowledge, even what seems to be like a distant dream becomes a reality. You end up buying a house. You think, where will I ever be able to afford a house? Finally, you end up buying the very house that you are living in. Recently, we know a family. They were living in a rented house and they ended up buying that itself. For a long time, they were thinking all houses are beyond our budget. There is no way that we can buy a house. Kadisila, they did not even have to pay for the movers. And not only that, they found out that what they are paying now in mortgage for that house is actually lesser than the rent that they were paying so far. Who can imagine? Who can dream? Is it not happening? Nadakurde. In every little way, Bhagavan is looking after. When things happen like this, when you don't ask and it happens, think of this. Please think of this. When without asking these pleasures come, you will enjoy them saying, "Oh Swami, what grace, how compassionate you are." Abdi, you will enjoy it. Alpa, like a dog, when you desire it and it happens, can it be compared? Can it be compared? You desire it and it happens. Okay, I desire it happened. Or there is a joy in the fact that it happened. Ana, unasked when it happens, then the joy of acquisition is also there. The joy of possession is also there. But even more than that, the joy that it was a gift of the Lord, can anything be equal to that? Why should we deny Him the opportunity to give us gifts by begging? He will give. What is the point? This we have got to. All of us have to realize this and understand this. Man is a bundle of impulses and intentions, of desires. And he reduces his innate divinity and innate peace by giving into these, by giving a free vent to these. His bundle of impulses and desires. I want this, I want this, I want this. When you give into that, you are reducing your innate divinity, your innate shanti you are reducing. The impulses are like fire, the intentions are like fuel. Impulses, the impulsive desires that arise within us are the fuel, and the intentions are like the fire. The fire can be put down only by placing the fuel aside. Keep the two apart. And the dying down of that fire itself is the attainment of Shanti. One desire alone, I should live for you. One desire alone, like Prahalada asked, one desire alone. What is that desire? I should have no desires. Apart from you, I should have no desires. To want to look at you, to want to adore you, to want to revere you, to want to serve you, to want to experience you, to want to enjoy you. And everything has to be with you. What is my desire? Let anything happen. And it should all be associated with you. That is my desire. If I should have fun, it should be with you. If I should have love, it should be with you. Whatever it is, I should have with you. Here is the beautiful thing. We cannot say, if I should have sorrow, it should be with you. Because if it is with him, it cannot be sorrow. No? If it is with him, it cannot be sorrow. If I should have strife, it should be with you. Then it is no longer strife. So the moment you bring him into it, then there is only positive. It can only be joy. It can only be happiness. It can only be peace. It can only be harmony. It can only be all of those positive virtues. Because when he is involved, he is the auspiciousness itself. Sada Sat, Sarvamangala, Sada Shiva. He is always auspicious. So when you bring him into your life, after that you cannot even for the argument's sake say, even if I should have sorrow, I should have it with you. It is no longer sorrow. Sorrow is converted into Ananda if Bhagavan comes into the picture. On the other hand, happiness also becomes sorrow if Bhagavan is left out of that picture. The simple truth. I want to enjoy something by myself should never arise. Our enjoyment is enjoying him. What else is there for us to think about? What else is there for to enjoy? Ponnar veniyane புலித்தோலையரை கசைத்து மின்னார் செஞ்சடை மேல் மிளிர் கொன்றை அணிந்தவனே மண்ணே மாமணியே மழபாடியுள் மாணிக்கமே அன்னே உன்னையல்லால் இனி யாரை நினைக்கேனே அப்படின்னு ஒரு song is there, been sung by Shaived Nayanmar. That he says, பொன்னார் மேனியனே, O golden hued lord, புலி தோலை அரைக்கசைத்து, who was wearing the tiger skin around his waist. மின்னார் செஞ்சடை மேல் மிளிர்கொன்றை அணிந்தவனே, and upon his reddish locks of matted hair he is wearing the beautiful crescent moon. மன்னே மாமணியே, O greatest jewel, O greatest lord, the greatest jewel, who is the lord of Malapadi. There's a place called Malapadi where he is the lord of the temple there, Shiva. அன்னே, O my lord, O my life, உன்னையல்லால் இனி யாரை நினைக்கேனே, apart from you, what else, who else shall I think about? The story goes that this particular Nayanmar, this particular saint, was accused of theft, and he was being dragged to the prison. And as he was being taken to the prison, he had to cross by the king's treasury, the counting house. There's lots of wealth they're counting. Everybody's counting the gold. Gold coins are being counted. And he's looking at those gold coins and going. The Nayanmar happened to look at the coins. But then the soldiers, the guards that are there, accused him and said, hey, what? Are you thinking of stealing those also? Are you thinking of all the gold? He says, Ponnar Meniyane. He says, am I thinking of the gold? I'm thinking of the golden hued Lord. Apart from him, what else am I to think about? Anne unnayallal ini yari ninekkene. Anne, oh Lord, apart from you, what else shall I think about? This particular little song also has got a history for me. எனக்கு எல்லா history தான். Everything has got a sweet history. எல்லாத்துலயுமே Bhagavan wants to show off his love for me. அதனால in this also there is a sweet story. Once in Thiruvannamalai, this particular song I learnt as part of my school curriculum in Tamil. In 10th standard or something, 10th வரைக்கும் தமிழ் உண்டா, CBSE ஞாபகம் இல்லை, எனக்கே ஞாபகம் பண்ணிக்கிறேன், 8th ஏதோ 8th 9th standard, something like that. I learned this as part of the school work. Tamil lessons, this particular lines were there. And for some reason it immersed me. My mother told me the story associated with it, so I really liked it. It was very nice. So it is the only amongst all the Shaivite texts, Thevaram nu solluva illaya, adile idu onnudhaan theriyum. Because we are brought up as Vaishnavites, so we don't know anything. Because of reading Tamil textbook in school, this is the only thing I know about Shiva related pasurams. Which ella Alvar pasurams was different, Thirupavai etc. were all different. But this was the only Shaivite pasuram that we knew. Appo we had gone to Thiruvannamalai 10 years ago maybe. Ningala vandad, many of you from Sydney and all also had come. And we were going Girivalam. And when we went Girivalam, as we were going along, there are Ashtalingams are there, no? There's different Vayulingam, Varunalingam, Nirthilingam. And one of those lingams, Varunalingam, we went and sat down. I still remember which lingam also. Varunalingam, we went and sat down to have a bit of a rest. I had darshan there and sat down. Evening time. The priest in the temple, big loudspeaker, he was putting some songs there. Edo some Thevaram songs. He put that song. The moment he put that Thevaram song, the only song that I knew came to my mind. Ponnar Meniyane. The moment that thought came to my mind, all of a sudden, this priest took up the remote control. He had a remote for it. And remote, he went and pressed. Anyway, he went and pressed 1, 2, next, and 8 songs he pressed forward. And then he left it. And no marks for guessing what that is. Ponnar Meniyane. He had started off that, or 2 lines of that original one would have gone. Suddenly, don't know what possessed him. He went and press, moved 8 songs forward. And you could see each one just starting, and he'll press it. Just starting, just press. Just starting, it will press. Finally, Ponnar Meniyane. Then he went back inside. See these small, sweet little gestures saying, yes, I'm there. Yes, I know. Yes, this is for you. Look at this. You all want your wives to do gestures for you, something nice for you. You want your silly husband to do something for you. For me, Swami does everything for me. Isn't that better than your foolish husband and your silly wife doing things for you? I seek him. He will look out for every small thing. You say something in the discourse, next day in the thought for the day, he will send the same thing. Isn't that sweet? Small gesture. Even something as simple as that. Who can do that for you? Even if you ask the wife to do, she will say, வேற வேலை இல்லை அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு போடலாம். Suddenly you have a desire to eat something, wife will say, no, வேற வேலை இல்லை, போயிட்டு வாங்க அப்படின்னு she might say. Might தான், not saying she will, might. ஏன்னா எனக்கு நடக்காது, for me it will not happen. Why அப்படின்னா, because if I say Swami will make her do it, முடிஞ்சு போச்சு. ஏன்னா எனக்கு கனெக்ஷன் அங்கதான். There will never be a no for you. Because Ishvara is there, looking after you in every way. Okay, சரி தானே வேணும், அதானே வேணும் உனக்கு, இதோ கொடுத்துட்டேனே. No desire will go unfulfilled. When அப்படின்னா, when you've given up all your desires, you will not have any desire, but even a stray thought, he will respect it. He will give it so much importance, and he will fulfill it for you. நம்மளே நினைப்போம், நான் அப்படி நினைக்கலையே சுவாமி, I wasn't serious about it Swami, we will think, and he will take it as though it is his prime duty and go ahead running around to fulfill it. Idanna karunamayudu kalpataru. Swami said, remember, just little while ago we saw that when we began today's session, we saw that little note that Swami said, what should we do அப்படின்னா, keeping the karunamaya who is like a kalpataru, Satyaswarupa, Premaswarupa, always in your mind is real self-respect. Swami said. And how is he? Karunamayudu Kalpataru. Wish-fulfilling tree. But also the ocean of compassion. So much compassion, so much kindness, so much sweetness, so much love. Where can we find such love apart from God? Therefore, who else should we think about other than him? Who else should we slave ourselves for but him? Who else shall we pine and seek but him? Who else shall we follow but him? Who else shall we love but him? Adhanala, dive deep into the ocean of Shanti and earn the invaluable pearl Atmananda, the bliss of the Atma. When that opportunity is seized, man becomes the personification of the effulgent, holy state of peace. That is why the Vedas declare that man himself is Shanti, Shantoyam Atma. Vedas are declared. Therefore, you should not delude yourself by imagining that you are the seat of Ashanti and Asatya. Know that you are the embodiment of Shanti. Know that Prema is the blood that flows in your veins and that your very nature is joy, is Ananda. Shanti, Prema, Ananda. The Munada Mukyam. These are our life, breath, watchwords for us. Shanti, Prema, Ananda. When the river of love goes and merges itself in the ocean of bliss, ocean of peace, waves of bliss arise. When the river of love goes and merges itself in the ocean of peace, then waves of bliss arise. Shanti, Prema, Ananda. We are the embodiments of Shanti. We are the embodiments of Prema. We are the embodiments of Ananda. Namely, we are ourselves Shanti. Prema flows in our veins and Ananda is our Swabhava, our innate nature. Realize this by actual practice and experience. Swami gives us an exhortation. With that, we will stop here for tonight's session. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु. लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु. लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु. ओम शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. हरि ओम तत्सत्. श्री साईश्वरार्पणमस्तु.